What is the hardest case that you ever worked on that was so complicated that it took a lot out of you?
I mean, I've had probably the toughest emotional one I had was one where it was the defense company, but they knew that they were going to be paying for stuff. It was a 18-wheeler accident. A lady in her 70s who was in the ICU for 2 weeks and almost died, and just horrific injuries. But her injuries were devastating, and that's tough because you're reading through this stuff, and the doctor's notes put in there about the family members coming, and they're trying to make decisions about should we extubate her and like let her pass, and like she ended up,
Wow.
but you're reading all this stuff like that's emotionally challenging, It's tough because you can't read it like a story, because if you read it like a story in a novel, there's a protagonist and there's an antagonist, and but what you would make it out if you read it like that is the truck driver's the bad guy, and the truth is the truck driver's not a bad guy. The truck driver was involved in an accident, and you know what, I bet it was super traumatic for him too. And as I
Yeah,
remind
you need a level of discernment from both angles.
you do, and I remind my kids all the time, when this kid's a bad kid in my class, he's not a bad kid. Okay, he might have done something you didn't like, but everyone is the protagonist in their own story. But so I think it's important when you are reading medical documentation, when you're preparing for court, that I remember that there is no assumption of a negative person just because I'm employed by this attorney or the other one for this case. And he was in one of those situations, like a lot of people, where they get a work-related injury, and then ultimately workers' comp says, we're done. At this point, you've reached maximum improvement no matter what it is. But they lost their job because of it. And now they either don't agree that they're done, like they still needed more treatment for the problem, or they need treatment for another problem. Get a new job. They were only trained for this job. And in this guy's case, he just fingers amputated. They can't do that job anymore. So all he ever did was go to work. And
it's
now
a domino effect because it's not just that injury, it's affecting every other aspect.
you're talking to that person, and in his case, he had a lot of details and was super helpful, and you can hear the desperation. So when you make an accusation, or when I make a case, I'm very careful that I'm as close to 100% factual on everything that I do, because poking one hole in credibility, even if it was a math error,
It'll fall. It's like a domino. It's just going to fall.